What if a single ship could tilt the balance of power across oceans? What if one vessel, armed with near-limitless endurance, strategic reach, and the political weight of a superpower, could rewrite how navies think about the future? Today, we're diving into China's nuclear carrier, what it is, why it matters, and how it could change everything.
Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We break down complex global stories into clear, visual, and sometimes surprising explanations. Today's one is huge. We're talking carriers, nuclear power, and geopolitics. Buckle up.
A nuclear-powered aircraft carrier is more than steel and reactors. It's an operational island, a floating airbase that can stay at sea longer, move faster, and project power farther than conventional ships. For a rising power like China, a nuclear carrier signals ambition, global reach, persistent presence, and the strategic freedom to operate nearly anywhere oceans permit. First, the basics. An aircraft carrier is often called the crown jewel of a navy. It's a warship designed to carry, launch, and recover aircraft at sea, essentially serving as a mobile airbase. But not all carriers are created equal, and the difference comes down to how they're powered. Traditional carriers are conventionally powered. They use massive diesel engines or gas turbines. While effective, these engines have limits. They burn enormous amounts of fuel and require constant resupply from tanker ships. That creates a logistical burden, tying the carrier to vulnerable supply chains and restricting its range. A nuclear-powered carrier, however, runs on naval reactors. These reactors use enriched uranium to generate heat, which produces steam to drive the ship's turbines. The result? Virtually unlimited propulsion. A nuclear carrier can sail for more than 20 years without needing to refuel its core reactors. Its only real limit is food, munitions, and the stamina of its crew. This endurance is game-changing. It means the ship can cross oceans without pausing, operate at high speeds for long periods, and stay on station for months at a time. Nuclear carriers don't just move farther, they move faster, giving navies unmatched mobility, but mobility is only part of the story. A nuclear carrier is a supercarrier in every sense. It's larger, heavier, and capable of launching more advanced aircraft, including heavier fighters and early warning planes. It's a floating hub for command, control, and intelligence. And because it doesn't need constant refueling, it frees up support ships for other missions, making the entire fleet more sustainable. For decades, aircraft carriers were a hallmark of blue water navies that operate globally, not just near their shores. The U.S. Navy has perfected carrier diplomacy, using carrier strike groups to reassure allies, deter adversaries, and respond quickly to crises. China's Navy, historically a green water force focused on regional seas, has been rapidly evolving. Showcasing aircraft carriers is as much about prestige and deterrence as it is about capability. A nuclear-powered carrier would represent a leap. It signals intent to operate far from home with greater independence.
This isn't purely technical, it's strategic theater. For Beijing, a nuclear carrier is a tool to protect maritime trade routes, secure overseas interests, and, crucially, to influence political calculations in distant theaters.
Technically, a nuclear carrier combines two massive engineering feats: compact, high-output reactors, and a flight deck capable of launching and recovering warplanes. Naval reactors produce heat to generate steam that drives turbines. No fossil fuels required for propulsion. That means fewer supply chains to defend, fewer vulnerabilities. But a carrier isn't just engines and steel, it's an ecosystem. Air wings of fighters, electronic warfare planes, early warning aircraft, helicopters, all supported by complex maintenance and supply chains. A nuclear carrier still needs resupply for food, munitions, spare parts, and crew rotations. It's independent but not invincible. What changes if China fields a true nuclear-powered carrier? There are three big implications. First, extended reach. This is where nuclear propulsion makes the biggest difference. Conventional carriers, no matter how powerful, are tethered to supply lines. They need fuel, and lots of it. That means constant coordination with tanker ships, vulnerable resupply missions, and predictable rotations back to port. A nuclear carrier breaks those chains. It can operate for years without refueling its engines. That endurance translates into persistence. China could keep a carrier group on station in the South China Sea for months at a time, or send it through the Indian Ocean, around Africa, and even into the Atlantic without worrying about running dry. Suddenly, Chinese naval presence isn't limited to regional flashpoints. It becomes global. Extended reach also means faster response. With more endurance, commanders can choose direct high-speed routes instead of slower, fuel-conserving ones. A nuclear carrier can surge into a crisis zone halfway around the world in a matter of days, not weeks. For allies or adversaries, that makes Beijing's presence less predictable and more impactful. And finally, endurance gives political leverage. Imagine a scenario where China stations a carrier off the coast of Africa to support peacekeeping operations, or keeps one in the Middle East to safeguard oil shipping lanes. The message to partners is clear. China is no longer confined to defending its near seas. It can guarantee security far beyond Asia, potentially challenging decades of U.S. naval dominance. Let's walk through 3 short scenarios to make this concrete. 1. High-tension standoff. In a regional crisis, a nuclear carrier can stay on station for weeks, complicating blockades or air superiority. That endurance could provide a decisive edge in sustained operations. 2. Humanitarian response. Carriers also serve as mobile hospitals and logistics hubs in disasters. Quick arrivals and long endurance mean faster, sustained relief. A diplomatic win during crises. 3. Escalation risk. Persistent carrier presence near disputed zones can escalate local incidents into strategic confrontations. Miscalculations, accidents, or aggressive interceptions could spiral. Each scenario shows benefits and risks. The same tool that projects power can also raise tensions if not managed through diplomacy and clear rules of engagement. If an adversary fields a nuclear carrier, others will adapt. Defenses, doctrine, and procurement shift. Expect investments in anti-ship missiles, submarines, long-range strike aircraft, integrated air and missile defenses, and electronic warfare to blunt carrier effectiveness. Submarines are a classic counter. Silent, stealthy diesel-electric or nuclear subs can threaten a carrier from under the waves. Long-range anti-ship missiles complicate carrier operations, forcing more protective escorts and layered defenses. Carriers don't operate alone. They're at the center of carrier strike groups with destroyers, frigates, supply ships, and subs. Building a carrier is only step 1. Protecting it is the expensive, ongoing part. Nuclear carriers are prestige projects, but they're also expensive. The costs include R&D, shipbuilding, reactors, pilot training, carrier-capable aircraft, maintenance yards, and a whole logistics network. And then there are opportunity costs. Money spent on carriers isn't spent on other forces, social programs, or infrastructure. The economic question is political. Does the strategic payoff justify the investment? For many states, a carrier is a signal of national power, but whether that signal translates into long-term advantage depends on how it's employed. Beyond military strategy, a nuclear carrier reshapes diplomatic conversations. It becomes a bargaining chip in negotiations, a presence at multilateral exercises, and a face of national ambition. Neighbors will recalibrate their diplomacy, hedging between deterrence and engagement. These aren't abstract effects. Port access agreements, basing rights, joint exercises, and arms procurement decisions all shift in response to a new carrier reality. The carrier influences politics as much as it does sea lanes. Nuclear propulsion reduces carbon emissions at sea but introduces nuclear safety and environmental risks. Reactor accidents, radioactive waste, and decommissioning all have long-term consequences. Transparency, safety culture, and international norms matter, especially when naval reactors are involved. Navies must be responsible stewards. The environmental and safety dimension is an often overlooked part of the carrier conversation. So, what does a nuclear carrier mean for the balance of power? Short answer, it raises the stakes. It amplifies reach, endurance, and political signaling. But it also invites counters: submarines, missiles, diplomacy, and cost-conscious rivals. A nuclear carrier can change strategic calculations, but it doesn't guarantee dominance. Strategy, alliances, doctrine, and economics all matter, and they interact in messy, unpredictable ways. In the end, the ship is both symbol and tool. It tells the world you're serious, and it gives you capability. How that capability is used will determine whether it stabilizes or destabilizes the regions it touches.
Thanks for watching. If you like this breakdown, give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who loves geopolitics or military tech. Want a deep dive into carrier tactics? Or a breakdown of countermeasures like hypersonic missiles and quiet diesel subs? Drop a comment below and tell us which topic to tackle next.
From reactors below deck to jets roaring off the bow, a nuclear carrier is a complex machine with far-reaching consequences. Whether it becomes a stabilizer or a source of tension depends on choices made in capitals, on decks, and around negotiating tables. For now, the world watches, and the sea keeps moving.